Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So do me a favor before we dive into these topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with some pretty interesting and kind of random updates regarding Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If we head over to the official Final Fantasy VII Twitter account, many people have noticed that there has been a new update given every single day, and people have discovered that by the time we reach the 7th day, assuming that we continue to get these daily updates, that will actually land on Summer Game Fest. And so this has led to many people speculating that we might get some type of an announcement potentially at Summer Game Fest for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, I do want to caution everybody with this. We know not to get our expectations high or to expect anything at this point, but this is just what some people are pointing out. However, what we can look to for some solid information here are these actual updates themselves. So we actually have 4 in total as of the time of this recording. The first one, these are basically Q&As. How is development progressing on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And the producer, Yoshinori Kitase, says development is progressing smoothly and according to plan. We are currently working on nailing down a release date for the game. The next question is, how will players journey through the world outside of Midgar in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? This is answered by the game's director, Naoki Hamaguchi, who says players will be able to journey across the wide and multifaceted world with a high degree of freedom, experiencing a myriad of different stories along the way. The third question is, what are some of the key things to look forward to in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's story? And this is answered by the story and scenario lead, and they say players will witness a chain of narrative developments that lie at the very heart of the Final Fantasy VII story while discovering each character's destiny. And the fourth and final update we have for now is, do I need to play Final Fantasy VII Remake to enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? And the answer comes from the game's co-director saying, no, we have made preparations so that players who did not get a chance to play the first game can fully enjoy Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So yeah, pretty much 4 small updates coming out of nowhere. Again, the timing of it is interesting because it is happening, very close to Summer Game Fest, and you would think right now would not be the time we get an update on Rebirth, simply because Final Fantasy 16 is right around the corner. So yeah, we'll see if this leads to anything else, but if anything, it's just kind of nice to get these small little updates. So let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. The next topic we're talking about is in regards to Spider-Man 2's release date and why it wasn't revealed at the PlayStation Showcase. It says here, coming from PlayStation Lifestyle, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was the showpiece of the PlayStation Showcase. It came with a long demo, but many also expected a solid date to come with it, given how it is Sony's biggest holiday game. Insomniac Games has now come out and explained why the studio didn't give a Spider-Man 2 release date during the show. Creative director Brian Intihar spoke to the Washington Post about the game and acknowledged the elephant in the room. He noted that Insomniac wanted to be confident that Spider-Man 2 will hit the date the developer announces, which, reading between the lines, means the superhero sequel isn't quite at that point yet. It's really just making sure that we are really confident that when we announce the date, we're going to hit it, said Intihar. It's really just about that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple response, and it's one that makes sense. I don't think there's any reason to believe that there is another reason that Insomniac isn't revealing here. It's understandable why some people would hear that and get a little bit concerned that, uh-oh, does this mean the game might get delayed out of 2023? I mean, that's always a possibility, and I don't want to say that we should expect that. I frankly am not expecting that. I fully expect Spider-Man 2 to release this year, but it sounds to me like they want to avoid a situation where if they announce that the game's coming out in like the first or second week of September and they give a specific date, and then as we get closer to that, they realize we actually need like another month, maybe 2 months, and then they have to push it back to November. I think they just want to avoid doing anything like that. That's my assumption anyway. But yeah, we're going to have to just remain patient and let Insomniac do what they're going to do with this game and give them the time that they need. And hopefully we'll get an official release date for Spider-Man 2 sooner rather than later. I think at this point, it wouldn't shock me if it actually doesn't come in September, but actually comes in like November, kind of like what we saw with God of War Ragnarok. But speaking of God of War, we have some pretty interesting information here coming from PlayStation Lifestyle. The God of War franchise is the most profitable merchandise brand for PlayStation, according to a former Sony employee, Aaron Kaufman, who spent nearly 8 years leading marketing activities at Santa Monica Studio, claims that God of War products are the most popular gaming products among PlayStation fans. As spotted by internet sleuth Timur222, Kaufman's LinkedIn profile mentions that Santa Monica Studios' social media presence is the most highly regarded in PlayStation's portfolio. 2018's God of War saw the developer's social media posts generate 187 million impressions and earned $1.8 million in earned media via the Lost Pages of Norse Myth promotional campaign. Kaufman spent his time building an authentic product creation process to empower the creation of products desired by the fans, and claims God of War has since become the most profitable PlayStation brand for gamer merchandise. Kaufman also revealed that 2015's God of War 3 Remastered sold 4 million copies to date. He left Santa Monica Studio in early 2020, so it's unclear if this figure is up to date or reflects sales through 2019. Another interesting tidbit of information mentioned on Kaufman's LinkedIn profile states that Santa Monica Studios' first mobile game, Fat Princess Piece of Cake, achieved 1 million installs on Android and iOS. So, yeah, I thought that it would be interesting to just kind of go over this data, because this is not stuff we hear about that often, and it's coming from somebody who was directly involved with, one of PlayStation's biggest studios. And I can't say I'm all too surprised to hear this regarding God of War. It's absolutely massive. It's been doing huge numbers for Sony for a long time now. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. We're moving on to the final topic, and this is certainly an interesting one. I have an article here from VGC, and it reads, Sony's chief executive, Kenichiro Yoshida, has warned that technical issues remain with cloud-based gaming, calling the technology very tricky. In an interview with the Financial Times, Yoshida mentioned that Sony would look to use various options in the future for streaming PlayStation titles over the internet. I think cloud itself is an amazing business model, but when it comes to games, the technical difficulties are high, said Yoshida, citing latency, which refers to the time it takes for an action inputted on the controller to be reflected on the screen, as the biggest issue. So there will be challenges to cloud gaming, but we want to take on those challenges. Yoshida also highlighted that due to the fluctuating popularity of gaming during the day, for example, a high number of players all logging on when they finish work, it's financially inefficient to run when there are few players, and that conversely, a high number of players logging on at the same time could lead to issues in performance. Referring to these quiet periods as the dark time, Yoshida said, the dark time for cloud gaming has been an issue for Microsoft as well as Google, but it was meaningful that we were able to use those quieter hours for AI learning, said Yoshida. PlayStation has aggressive plans for the cloud gaming space, according to PlayStation boss Jim Ryan, the details of which he claims will be revealed over the coming months. And so this was pretty interesting. It's interesting because it goes to show that Sony is still not completely sold on the cloud, and I think for anybody who prefers to game on native hardware like on the PlayStation console, this is good news. But at the same time, Sony is still acknowledging that the cloud is a big, it has big potential. It's a market that can have an amazing business model, but right now Sony does not see it viable as as a gaming platform to kind of go towards the cloud as, this is the future. This is like where players are going to play their games, and this is really what we're going to chase. It doesn't mean they're not doing anything in cloud. As the article concludes, Jim Ryan alluded to some pretty aggressive plans that they have. And, I assume that anything Sony's going to do when it comes to cloud gaming for PlayStation is simply going to be supplemental. I think that's what everybody's expecting. But yeah, pretty interesting insight here from Sony's CEO. It sounds like Sony's going to be sticking to native hardware for quite some time. And while that may not necessarily be the most surprising thing, I think it's a pretty reassuring thing. So I wanted to be sure to let you guys know about this, and I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say. Are you in agreement or disagreement with what Sony's CEO is saying here about cloud gaming when it comes to PlayStation? Anyway, that does it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.